And a good early afternoon to you, Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights. This VELCO Weather Hazards video is driven by 802cars.com, representing 802 Toyota, Twin Cities Subaru, and 802 Honda. They're all located off of exit 7 on Interstate 89. The main driver is the flow coming in out of the north and northwest. This is a Canadian Maritime system. This is the surface low, this is the upper air low, and it's pulling much colder air south and southeast coming in out of Canada. We currently have a dry slot right now, drier air working on in, out ahead of this increasing or leading edge of increased amount of moisture that's kind of rotating and counterclockwise around that area of low pressure in the Canadian Maritimes. So what we're going to see is a pretty decent day today, the rest of today. But tonight, clouds are going to be on the increase, especially in northern areas. In fact, maybe even later this afternoon, as we'll see those clouds kind of north of Quebec City, up in this general area. That's going to be drug south. And we're in for a little bit of an upslope component snowfall across the really northwest corner of the state. This would include the Champlain Valley, as there is a bit of a blocking barrier mechanism setting up, and it pushes that lifting mechanism out ahead of that mountain barrier. And so consequently, northern Champlain Valley, Grand Isle, Franklin County, and into the northern Green Mountains and eastern part of Chittenden County to be most affected. I'm not expecting very much in the way of snowfall further off to the south, and generally east of that point. We're just looking at flurries with basically just some minor coatings over the next couple of days. All the big action is going to be up around Jay Peak, back into about Mount Mansfield, and then points north and west where that barrier blocking mechanism is going to be over the northern part of the Champlain Valley. Looking at wind chills right here, and the wind chills pretty significant up to the north of us. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of that. However, the winds will gust just a bit, as we're seeing gusts in the 20s and 30s circulating around this area of low pressure. Looking at where the cold air is, this is the climate reanalyzer, and you can see that colder air is really not that significant below normal, but it is being pushed on to the south and will be affecting a good portion of the east coast. Note the warm-up here circulating in around that area of low pressure, so that's a southerly push on the right side of that area of low pressure, and then a cold push on the western flank, of course. And we're looking at generally above normal temperatures almost coast to coast, excepting the northeast. Again, this is going to be driven southbound. Looking at temperature anomalies at a slice of the atmosphere, roughly about the top of Mount Mansfield, or 850 hectopascal. And what we can see is the cold below normal temperatures over our region, and then a lot more warm-up, of course. We just looked at some of that. And this is how it's projected by the European model. So colder weather actually gets even colder. We're looking at temperatures running, looks like minus 6, 12, 13, to maybe minus 16, and that colder weather kind of hangs around the northeast United States. But just to run that back, look how that goes down the eastern seaboard, and this is valid by Saturday. So over the weekend, some of the coldest weather, and then that begins to push on out. We start to see a bit of a warming trend, and that warming trend is going to be as significant as the colder air that moves in as well out ahead of it. Temperature projections are for much warmer air. This is valid next Wednesday, the 10th of March. And what you can see is just beyond the period here, we'll be seeing probably the warmest temperatures here, running about 10 to 12 degrees, 13 degrees above normal at 850 hectopascal. And then beyond the period, we will see a cool down as that warmer air gets pushed on out to the east. And we're back into more or less an oscillation. But note, we continue with slightly warmer than normal temperatures into Saturday and into Sunday, starting around the 14th in the middle part of the month. We're back into colder than normal temperatures, so a bit of an oscillation. And it's interesting to note that this will have flooded pretty much all of North America, way down into Mexico, and we'll all be basically in this together. This is our Canadian Maritime storm, and this is valid earlier this morning. So pretty tight pressure gradient with relatively strong winds, marginally strong for utilities up in Quebec, mostly into the St. Lawrence Valley. You can see how this area of low pressure is kind of backing in. There's blocking mechanisms over toward Greenland, so that's going to force that a little bit more to the west. But meanwhile, that northwesterly flow will have impacts as it kind of rams up against the northwestern Green Mountains, and again, that displaced mountain barrier with the lifting mechanism a little bit more over toward Grand Isle County, Franklin County, and the eastern part of Chittenden County. That eventually then gets wiped out by Friday evening, and you can see that that gets much lesser. The pressure gradient begins to relax a little bit, and this area of higher pressure will start to push this storm on out as we head into this coming weekend. That's good for probably not great solar radiation, as there'll be probably residual cloud cover on Saturday, as indicated right now. Still some lake effect plumes coming in off of Lake Ontario, and this is not going to make it. So the way it's set up right now is that area of higher pressure is going to be pushing east on Saturday night and into the day on Sunday. So we're looking at basically dry weather Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday of next week. This area of higher pressure is the main result of that. We'll take you beyond this period here. This is coming in on Tuesday right at the period boundary. We can see a little bit of light wet snow, but this 1028 hectopascal area of higher pressure will then kind of override everything. And we're in for this kind of flow that's going to be starting to circulate desert air, very dry conditions at first, but a southwesterly flow, and that's going to give us a major warm-up, and this is the mechanism here with a pretty good pattern change roughly about Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And it looks like we'll be into sugaring, and then we're also looking at conditions also supporting some rain showers, maybe mixed snow showers eventually, but that's going to work on through with a sharper cold front, and then we're back into that colder air later in the period. So even with the drier air pushing in as a cold Arctic modified dry air, we're getting that little bit of that upslope component with that moisture circulating around that area of low pressure. It doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. Again, this is Montpelier, and the total QPF with this entire period here looks like this. So it's not until we get into fairly late in the period we're going to see anything significant, and that is not that significant. Pretty dry conditions. This is 1/100th of an inch or less, middle Atlantic, southern New England. We get into the quarter amounts as that upslope component. We're talking about a quarter amount of precipitation melted total, and it's not very big deal. This is good for the next 7 days, the entire period. 2 meter temperatures, you can see the year plot and the NDFD plot with the chart that I issue, but not on this. However, looking at 850 hectopascal, you can see that our temperatures go above the freezing mark, which would indicate some precipitation. If it did occur, it would be in the form of rain. And looking at precipitation type, and you can see that's green line here, that's rain. So we have pretty good warming that's taking place off to the west of us. We're still in pretty much the deep freeze. This is the next 5 days of meteorological output statistics, the mean. These are high temperatures only. Compare that to 3 days later, and it looks like that. And we do get into that warming. This is pretty magnificent. A lot of people counting on this right now, and this is going to kick off some pretty good sap runs for sugaring. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.